The Marlins are heading to the city by the bay as they take on the Giants to start the week.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for 4 seasons. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And he wasn't on the show Monday. It got pushed back to Tuesday, but Loud Miami fan back in the house. How we doing?
It's a Tuesday. We're happy. The Wednesday's almost here. We missed baseball last night, but it's back today, better than ever, and I'm happy to be with you, Jeremiah. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you. Plenty to talk about in this one. We're going to preview the Marlins and the Giants series. It's always fun, you know, when the Marlins go to the West Coast. It's a late night baseball. You got to stay up for it. Sometimes it's difficult to stay up for it, but we're going to preview that. Giants are a really good team, guys. There's some names to watch for. Talk about Clayton McCullough. We have to address the manager situation and also the leadership. Who is the leader on this Marlins team right now? LMF, let's start with this Marlins and Giants series. It's a 3-game set. The Marlins played the Giants a couple weeks ago in Miami. Very offensively limited series. The Marlins were really in a rut. Hopefully, it's not the same case. They got to start putting up some runs. They did well against Atlanta. Hopefully, that translates the momentum into Oracle Park. What's kind of your initial thoughts as we head into this West Coast trip?
Well, it's an avengeful series. Not revengeful, but avengeful. The Marlins left a lot on the table versus the Giants in Miami. A lot of runs left on base. Runners, I think the game I went to on that Sunday, we had left 11 batters within like 3 innings. It was just really bad. And we should have won that series. So this is an avengeful series, one that we have to come back from. The Giants are a different team, of course, adding a lot to their lineup endeavors. Guy has owned the Marlins in a Boston uniform. Let's see how he does in the Giants. But really, it comes down to pitching. Both teams have good pitchers on the mound, and we'll see how we do.
Yeah, one of the focal points that I'm going to be locked in for on this series is the pitching matchups. Because for the Marlins, you have Cal Quantrill going on Tuesday, and then it's Edward Cabrera Wednesday. Jansen Junk closes it out. Cal Quantrill quietly has been pitching somewhat effectively. You know, at the beginning of the season, a lot of fans were calling for his spot in the rotation, and he's kind of quieted that crowd, myself included, because Quantrill's a veteran and he's settled in. He's nothing flashy, nothing special, but I think if you get 5 innings of 2-3-run ball, if you're the Marlins, you're happy with that. And then for Edward Cabrera, you're facing an offense that is kind of inconsistent. Yes, they've added Devers, which is huge. But overall, the majority of the season, the Giants haven't been a good offensive team. I want to see Cabrera continue to attack hitters. He's got such good stuff. Just stay on the attack. Don't give them the easy way out. And then Jansen Junk. This is a really big opportunity for him. He looked awesome against the Braves. Can he do it again, this time on the road in San Francisco?
But yeah, you mentioned it. You know, Quantrill has quietly done very well versus the West of the National League. And he did it, I believe he faced the Giants when they were here. It was either them or Colorado, that series, but let's not talk about the Colorado part of it.
No.
But he did very well versus the West, and that's because he was in the West last year. I expect him to do the same. Pitching at Oracle is not easy, right? It is a pitcher's ballpark because of the wind and the dimensions of the stadium, but if he doesn't do well, if he walks batters, we're going to run into a problem, which brings me to Eddie, the guy who loves to walk batters. Not so much recently, and I'll give Eddie his credit, Edward Cabrera. He has really turned it around the last 4 or 5 starts, and I hope that continues. I think he had his best start in his last start, if I remember correctly. It was either that one or the one before. And then you get Junk, not trash, earned his way into the lineup of our rotation. He's done very well in that first game, of course, getting the win, leading them to only one run given up on Friday night versus the Braves, who have a big, more deeper lineup on paper, you'll say, than the Giants, I think. But we'll see how he does versus the West. And yeah, it's going to be a fun series.
An interesting thing, you mentioned Quantrill pitching against the Giants. He actually set his season high in strikeouts back at Lone Depot Park on May the 30th. He went 5 innings, 8 hits, but only 2 runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. I would argue that's probably been his best start of the season, so hopefully he can go out there and replicate it. What are the X factors for this series that, besides the pitching staff? Because yesterday's show, I talked a lot about Jansen Junk, not Cabrera, but Sandy, Yuri Perez. I wanted to focus on the pitchers, but offensively, who are the X factors that fans need to really hone in on? Because I've talked about Xavier Edwards, the X factor, no coincidence there. He's been heating up, and he's the prototypical leadoff hitter. But one of the guys that I'm really watching this series is Otto Lopez. He had a decent series against the Braves, was off to a hot start, got injured, came back. He's still trying to find his groove. And remember, Otto Lopez was a former San Francisco Giant. That is who waived him, and the Marlins and Peter Bendick scooped him up. So Otto Lopez is a guy that I'm really going to be watching for in this 3-game set.
Otto has to do well. It's funny that you asked who's the X factor, and I wrote X down because
there we go.
It's setting the table. Look, the lineup after X, you never know what it's going to be. Who's going to bat where the way this team puts it together. But X is the tone setter, and he needs to take some balls. He needs to not swing always at the first pitch. He needs to kind of set that tone, get a base hit. You saw him steal a base or 2 versus the Braves over last weekend. That was nice to see. Continue that. Really set the team up for success at the beginning. Get to their pitchers early, because once they settle down at home, if you go down 2 to 3 runs and their pitchers light it up, it's going to be very difficult to come back from it. So score early, set the tone. X does that. Otto can do that from the 3 or 4 spot, depending on where they put him. And I don't want Dane Myers being in the 9 spot. I like Dane Myers right in the middle of your lineup at 5 or 6. Give him the opportunity to drive the runs in, not lead the next inning off or the 3rd or 4th inning off. I'd like to see Dane Myers continue to really lead the team in batting average and on base percentage.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Dane has to be hitting in a premium spot in the lineup. He's the best player offensively for the Marlins. You look at the numbers all the way across the board. There's really no weakness from Dane Myers other than the fact he hasn't played a lot of baseball. And you know what I mean? That's it.
I'd like to see more power from Dane, right? He's doing really well at smacking the ball around, getting the doubles, getting some singles, driving runs in, getting the clutch hit when he needs to, as shown on Sunday. But I would really like to see him get some more power, get a couple home runs here and there a little bit more frequently than he's doing now. I'm not saying he needs to change anything, because I love the way he's playing, but I'd like to see the power come through a little bit more.
I'd like to see the power come through from Jesus Sanchez this series. I want to see a bomb into the bay. That would be pretty cool.
We would always love to see Jesus start pounding the ball out, and going over right field would be nice.
Let's talk about the manager, Clayton McCullough. We have to discuss, how he's done so far. He actually gave himself a self-letter grade. He graded himself as a C-. I'm going to talk about Clayton McCullough with LMF right after this. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. And effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If those traditional options haven't worked for you guys, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor, and it will ship your treatment directly to your door. And you can check out those customer reviews on their website. It's helping a lot of people feel confident and more present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB and use promo code LockedOnMLB for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. I appreciate everyone who's part of the Locked On Everyday Marlins crew. If this is your first time checking out Locked On Marlins, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us Monday through Friday. LMF is in the house, loud Miami fan. Let's talk about Clayton McCullough, because this is a conversation that we have to have more in depth. And I don't want to underplay or just not emphasize the importance of what a manager brings to the table, because a good manager, a great manager, does so many different things well. Yes, it's about the baseball. It's about setting the lineup, how to orchestrate the pen, how to set the rotation, when to pull guys, when to leave them in. But it's also about knowing your guys, and I would argue most importantly, being a leader. I don't know if Clayton McCullough has exhibited anything this season that makes me feel confident in him as the Marlins manager moving forward.
I think he signed a 3-year deal, 2-3 years. I think he's going to live it out, unless they really bomb, which they're not doing. The Marlins have shown fight. I'm not sticking up for Clayton. I'm not a huge fan. If he's going to grade himself a C-, I'm going to grade him a D. And I'll explain why. There's a few, and it happens frequently, and I know it's what you do for me now that we talk about most, so I'm going to start there. And I'll get back to the managers themselves over the last three that we've had. Clayton has cost us more games in situations than won us games in situations. I say that based on just over the last week. Let's go back to Edward Cabrera's start versus the Phillies. Edward Cabrera was running the table, and then they pull him. I think it was like 87 pitches or something, if I remember, 83, 87 pitches, somewhere in that range. It was in the 6th inning. He went 6 1/3. He had given up a hit of some sort or walk, and they took him out. The next, and I'm not blaming the guy they put in, but Edward still had a lot left. Let him get that confidence. Let him get out of the inning. For the times that he's walked the bases loaded and that one inning that he's imploded, I think he's matured enough where he should be able to get out of that 6th inning. And it really ruins the confidence in not only the player, who you saw vividly on camera in the dugout with the towel over his head, shaking his head. He's not trying to show up his teammates. He's just this unhappy about being taken out in general and not being able to protect his own lead. But it really changes it from a opponent standpoint, right? The opponents then get to take a sigh of, oh, all right, Edward Cabrera's out. We don't have to worry so much. Let's now start swinging the bat. One more thing, over the weekend on Sunday, with a lead, the Marlins were up, I think, 2 runs at the time, and Liam Hicks had gotten 2 out of 3 hits in the game. And late in the I think it was the 7th inning, they take him out and replace him in the lineup with Agustin Ramirez. And look, we all like Agustin. I believe he can do damage at the plate. That's not the point of what I'm about to say. But putting him in when we have a 2-point or sorry, I'm talking like Clayton there.
Yeah,
Do
that's the
that.
next point we're
Yes,
gonna
his
make.
2-run lead. I did that on purpose, by the way.
Yeah,
His 2-run. I have it written down. His
I
two
love it.
run lead. He puts Augustin Ramirez in. But what if the Braves had come back in the 8th or the 9th, and then you don't have Augustin Ramirez in the 10th or the 11th inning? Because you've already used them in a no reason situation when you're up 2 runs. It's little things like that that can cost us a game. And back to that D, I would have give Clayton a C minus if he didn't call runs points because baseballs they're runs. We're not scoring points in the NHL. We're not scoring points kicking a field goal. No, we're hitting home points. Home runs. They're called runs, and Clayton, you get a D for that.
And that question was directly asked to Clayton McCullough by Fish on First's Isaac Azut, who asked him, what grade would you give yourself through the first 76 games? I'll give myself a C minus. I want to know exactly why you'd give yourself a C minus. Elaborate a little bit on that. For me, it really comes down to this. I tweeted this out last week. I miss Skip, and I put a picture of Skip Schumacher. I mean, you've seen it with the classic throwbacks from 2023. And everybody was either, liking my post, commenting something. And it was very simple. But Skip Schumacher, the difference that I see between Skip Schumacher and Clayton McCullough doesn't have to do with the bullpen, because I am already infuriated enough with the on the field mistakes this guy makes. Game in and game out. He doesn't let the starters go. He routinely switches up the bullpen roles, makes the wrong decision there. The lineup's all over the place. Pinch hitting every time in later innings. But Skip Schumacher was a warrior. That man was a leader. And here's the thing. He was connected to the game. He was a baseball player just a few years prior. He knows what it's like to be in a major league clubhouse. And I remember talking about this in my former podcast, the Marlins 9 podcast, that Skip Schumacher had established a culture, that the Marlins had a culture, and they were building a winning culture. They made the playoffs in 2023. He was the manager of the year. It's almost inconceivable for me to visualize Clayton McCullough being the manager of the year. Like, I can't conceptualize that, because he doesn't do anything that sets him apart. I really can't think of anything. And what's the point of being a manager in the major leagues or naming somebody the manager if that doesn't give you a clear, distinct advantage? I talk about occasionally, the Yankees' Aaron Boone. That guy has fire. And you may hate him, you may love him, but I'll tell you what, he cares about winning. He's going to go and die on a shield every single game. It might be game 62 or 162 or game 7 of the World Series. There's a chance he gets tossed. McCullough stands there and doesn't say anything. Doesn't react, doesn't smile, doesn't look upset when the Marlins are losing. This is professional baseball. I want a skipper like Jack McKeon. I want a skipper. Do you remember that play back 2014? I think it was Mike Redmond was the manager when there was a play at the plate against the Reds, and they called blocking the plate on Jeff Mathis, and Mike Redmond ran out, red in the face, and just lit into the umpires. That's what a manager needs to do from time to time. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. They need that oomph. They need that energy. They need to bring it out. They need to stand up for their players when it's time. Even if it's not time, but you're on a losing streak and you need to come out and show some emotion. That's what a manager does. He sets the team up in a direction to win, not only on paper, but off paper. And look, you mentioned Skip. I have all the respect in the world for Skip Schumacher. And he did set the tone in 2023 for a winning culture, except in 2024, they didn't come out with a winning culture. I don't know if that was something changed other than Peter Bendix taking over.
That wasn't his fault, though.
The exception is Kim Ng was gone. He was upset about that. He already knew he was leaving the team. He had asked to not for the Marlins not to pick up his extra year that they had the option for. So he knew he was leaving. That final year, I'm not going to say he threw the shoe into the box, but he had the shoe in the box with the top almost closed, ready to put in his closet for the winter. Like he knew he was leaving, so no matter what he did, didn't matter. And I'll take it from the players' mouths. Okay, look, Jazz Chisholm Jr., who I love, who probably had the biggest personality on this team. And I'm not going to say it's bad for the locker room. He had his own personality. Well, he got along with Skip, and Skip turned him into a winner. So he can go play for Aaron Boone, build a relationship with Aaron Boone, and have a friendship and play wherever he needs to for the manager. That's what a manager does. You do what your manager has respect for you. He coaches you up. He makes you better. You will do anything for that manager. And I think Jazz Chisholm Jr. has shown what good managers mean as part from Don Mattingly, who didn't have Jazz's back as a young guy. And I'm using Jazz as an example because he was young, just new to the league, came in as a rookie, spent 4 years with us. That's where we are now. We have a bunch of rookies. And look, our manager, Clayton McCullough, gets respect from other players, right? He has the respect of the Dodgers, where he won a championship. Of course, a bunch of veterans who probably didn't need the coaching up at that point because they're veterans, and he's going to be part of the National League coaching staff. Good for him based on former recognition, former team leadership with the Dodgers. But as his own standalone manager, he's not done, as you say, anything that has earned my trust to say, I want you back next year as this team starts to mature and go in that upwards direction.
Speaking of that maturation, the Marlins are a young team. Who is the leader in the clubhouse? The Marlins need leadership, not just by the skipper, by Clayton McCullough, but literally the players themselves. Who is going to set themselves apart to lead this team? And also, we're going to talk about ownership and the front office. That's all coming up right after this. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and you wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, baseball games, movies, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize just how much you've been spending, whether that's on food delivery or really any expense. It's going to help you realize that, and then you're going to be able to budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan those long-term goals. And if you have a partner, managing money with them is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, stay on the same page without the stress while setting your goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Half off, guys. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off. Back here with Loud Miami fan. Reminder, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, share the podcast with your friends, and you can also listen on the go. We're on all the major podcast streaming platforms out there. The Marlins are one of the youngest teams. You just elaborated on that before, and it perfectly ties into this final segment, because in the offseason, there were a lot of fans clamoring for a potential signing of a veteran bat, maybe like Anthony Rizzo. So there were some fans that wanted Trevor Bauer, one of the older veterans, to come in this clubhouse and just provide stability. Do the Marlins have a clear-cut leader besides Sandy Alcantara, who I believe is a phenomenal leader and really anchors that pitching staff? But the rest of the team, where do they kind of fall in? Is everyone just trying to get their footing? Because sometimes that's what it feels like.
It's funny, I have 4 written down for this question, and my 1A is Sandy Alcantara, because he is the former Cy Young. He's been through the tour of celebrating something, some sort of an award. He can lead in that manner, and he can coach the pitching staff up on getting there. Coach the Uris up. Help the Call Contrells, who is a struggling veteran. Bring some veteran past and experience to it. Yeah, presence. There you go. But I have my 1B, and you're going to be surprised with this. It's the one
I'm
guy
ready for it.
I never support, and that's Jesus Sanchez. Jesus Sanchez has to be a leader in that locker room. He's the most tenured Marlin. After him, I have Nick Fortes, because the battery, the catcher, is always going to be a leader, directing traffic out on the infield and outfield on every play and every pitch. But yeah, Jesus Sanchez has to be a leader in that locker room, and I believe he is. I believe he was. A funny story, back in 2023, when we had all those veterans in the locker room, the Jorge Solers, the Avi Crappy Sayul Garcia. Yes, I said crappy. All the veteran leaders in 2023, the Jazzes, all the personalities. You know who stepped up? Jesus Sanchez. You know who brought my home run chain and made it a thing? I didn't give it to him. I gave it to another player. But he made that into a celebration, I was told. He's the one who stood up and said, we need something to celebrate our achievements of hitting a home run, and that was him. So I'm going to say Jesus Sanchez is a leader in the locker room, and he is the most expensive position player on the team. We talk about him being traded. Probably will happen, but until he is our leader. And then fourth, I will go Dane Myers. He's the next tenured player on the team. He has the voice and the experience of almost being kicked out of baseball, and that's why he plays so hard every day. He knows what it's like to almost lose your career and have to make the change to a position player, make a switch to remain in the great game that we all love. So I would say they are your leaders. I don't know for a fact. I would love to hear from the players, and maybe soon, which we'll announce eventually, you and I will be able to ask some of them that question.
I think, when it comes to leadership, it's such a nuanced topic because there's so many different ways to be a leader. You have the lead by example, where you're just kind of quiet and you're just doing your thing, but everyone respects you. And then you have the vocal leadership, the get in your face, yell at him when something goes wrong, and then be there to pick him up when you need to. Visually, Jesus Sanchez, it makes a lot of sense, especially when Conine went down and that outfield experienced a major loss, with the season-ending injury to Griffin. Someone had to step up, and you saw Dane Myers step up with production, like you mentioned. Jesus Sanchez, he's been in the Marlins organization since 2019. He made his Marlins debut in 2020. He knows everything about the Marlins organization at this point, and he's probably going to get traded away, like you said. I'm going to go with another player, Cal Quantrill. I think Cal Quantrill, he's seen the ups and he's seen the downs, being in Cleveland, having success there, and then watching his production just take a nosedive and ends up in Colorado and has to take a 1-year deal on a rebuilding Miami team. And look, the production might not be there, but when you look at a guy like Jansen Junk, or Adam Major just made his Marlins debut, I'm sure he'll be back here in the next couple of months. These young pitchers that are going to start to cycle through the rest of the season, if Cal Quantrill doesn't get traded, being 30 years old, having success and failure under his belt, I think he can just be there as a mentor and support, because pitching is so difficult, mentally, physically, and just kind of help these guys get into a routine. Now, as we are running out of time, I want to quickly touch on the front office and ownership, because ultimately those are the leaders. That's what sets the tone for your franchise. And for Bruce Sherman and for Peter Bendix, I just have one message for them both. Commitment. Do you care about Marlins baseball enough? How bad do you want a World Series, Bruce? Like, really? How much do you want it? Because LMF wants one. I want one. Everyone listening or watching to this podcast wants one. So let's all be on the same page. Be committed to the goal, which is to be a winning franchise. And for Bruce, that means spending money. That means putting your money where your mouth is. You say we're going to win a lot more. than people expect, well, the Marlins are still on pace to lose what? Close to 100 games, if not more. So let's show some commitment on that end. For Peter Bendix, I like some of the trades he's made. I like some of the trades he hasn't. I want to see transparency with the fan base, transparency throughout the organization. You know, we have to be an organization that people can one day respect. And this trade deadline is so huge. You know how much Sandy Alcantara means to the fan base and what he's meant to the city of Miami and the Marlins organization. If you trade him and it fails, that could be your legacy. This has to be executed to perfection. This could be a career-changing deadline for for Peter Bendix.
I will say this, and we'll make it quick because I could go on a rampage on this, but we don't have the time. This episode, maybe next Monday. But look, Peter Bendix and our ownership and our leadership group have two ways to go. You could either be like the Florida Panthers, who were stuck in below average play for so many years, scared off their fan base, even though the stadium has always been in a nice place of Sunrise, Florida. You could be that, which you are right now. Or you can be like the Panthers ownership group, be honest with the fans. I'm going to build a championship. I'm going to spend money, but actually do it the right way and then do it. Execute it. Zito, the Panthers GM, has set the blueprint for you, Peter Bendix. Not obviously different sport, but he set the blueprint of how to be the general manager and deal with the inner doings of your job, inner workings of your job, but also placate to the fan base. Be honest with us.
Yeah.
Don't be like the Miami Heat are right now. Don't be stuck in average world where you don't get the Kevin Durant signings and you're always used as a pawn in trades. Be the guy who's going to lead and be honest with the fan base that took a step back and now we're on the right direction, and be in front of the fan base. I hate that Peter Bendix is nowhere to be seen at Lone Depot Park when I'm at games. He's doing the Derek Jeter model. I hate it. I loved how Kim Ng, good, bad, or ugly, the team was playing. She was always up front with the team, with the fans, telling us, being honest with us about what she's doing. That's the blueprint for this leadership to follow. Let's get louder on this Tuesday.
I love it. Perfectly said. I think that Peter Bendix needs to say this, and Bruce Sherman needs to say this as well. If you're going to take the team from a playoff team and strip it to the bare bones and rebuild, come out and say it and ask for the Marlins fans' patience. Say, we understand your struggles. We're going to succeed. We're going to do this the right way. That's it. And then execute, like you said, but do it the right way. Be honest and tell the fans what's happening. Like I said, this trade deadline, this draft is so huge for the future of this organization. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.